You are tuned in to a fireside chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. I'm your host, Lance White. Tonight, my guest is John C. Gabriel. John has spent almost 4 decades with the Japanese people. During his early years, he immersed himself in a rigorous study of the language, martial arts, oriental medicine, and Zen practice. After a mysterious experience in 1992, he began writing as an alter ego, Echan Deravy, lectured all over Japan on the key theme of 2012, and directed the monumental film Earth Pilgrims with Graham Hancock. He brought remote viewing to the Japanese and took them on scores of specialized journeys to megalithic sites and places of power around the world. He conducted many sessions with them, particularly in the Amazon, using ayahuasca. For 18 years, he used Japanese television, film, publication, and teaching stories to alert the general public to the event horizon of 2012. He's translated dozens of books into Japanese. From the beginning of this time in Japan until the present, the strange and sometimes frightening world of its social backstage has been part of his roller coaster life. So let's welcome John to the show now. Hi, John. How are you?
It's good to be back, Lance. How are you doing there?
I missed you. Well, you know, I had an epiphany when I had this vision of you being in Japan and the atomic reactors melting down, and I thought, why don't I try to reach you and see if you can talk about this, because you're an insider. You've been in Japan for over 40 years, haven't you?
Well, the exact number is I arrived in Japan in 1974, so we're coming up with 37 years now. We're moving up to 40 very rapidly. It's been quite a long haul, yeah.
Well, now, were you in Japan at the time that this occurred, and what are your thoughts on it? Let's just dive into this.
Okay. I was in Japan until 6 days before it hit, and a series of intuitions, let's say, arose within me because I was teaching a group of people remote viewing in Tokyo from the end of February to the beginning of March. And when you teach remote viewing, even though you're not individually doing a session with a specific target in time or space, your intuitional antennae, let's call them, get incredibly sensitive to what's going on around. And so I was walking down a main street in Tokyo towards the end of February, and I pulled out my iPhone, and I decided I would walk through the literally tens of thousands of people thronging the streets, and I would just film their faces and run a commentary, which I ended up putting up on YouTube. And the commentary included a rather strange phrase, which was, do these people have any idea of what's coming? Can they possibly feel, I wonder, this enormous wave of transformation, quote unquote, that is coming very soon? Now, when I said that, I didn't have a specific image of a tsunami. I was being more general because being a student of things 2012 and fractal time compression and the changes as they're accelerating, it was quite clear to me that something enormous was on its way. I could feel it. And so that was part one of the feeling it was coming. And I was very uncomfortable in Tokyo most of the time I was there. I believe that everybody can actually feel it. But unless you do something like remote viewing, you will discount that intuition. You will throw it aside and go, nah, nah, nah.
Mm-hmm.
You'll dull your senses because you don't want to face up to what's coming, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
So I laughed with a sigh of relief because literally every day in Tokyo could be today, could be tomorrow, but it's coming. Now that's nothing to do with prophecy, Lance, or fortune telling at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a keen student of what's happening on the sun, and I was seeing these massive sunspots emerge. I was looking at the connection between solar activity and the Christchurch earthquake, and I was putting two and two together in my own way. So when I got back to Japan, on the very day that the earthquake hit, the 11th of March in Japan, on my blog, I clearly wrote in Japanese rather chilling words that surprised me, and the words were, "This month you're going to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the earth is in very big shift mode, so be prepared, get your hearts ready, it's coming." And 12 hours later it hit, Lance.
Oh, my God.
So imagine how that made me feel.
Well, yes.
You hate to be the bringer of bad news, but you cannot avoid knowing certain things when you've done multidisciplinary research, which I just call joining the dots. It's nothing to do with special psychic abilities or foreknowledge or insider information even. You just have to link all of these apparently disparate events that have been escalating since the beginning of this year. And
Absolutely.
they will continue to escalate beyond any shadow of a doubt in my mind.
Well, I'm sure since you are so well versed on 2012 that you know that we're in the second day of the Mayan ninth wave.
That's right.
So, I mean, if you'd like to speak along those lines too, and also about the Japanese people, how they're doing, how they're taking this. Are there any feelings of the chatter that's going on about premeditation or some kind of electronic interference patterns that are boosting, perhaps, the disaster? So just feel free to talk about anything you want to talk about.
Well, first of all, my research in 2012 studies, and I have to say here that I'd like to send a massive blessing out through the internet for Jose Arguelles, who is a great comrade in this work. I worked with him in Japan, where he has a large following. And I actually got up on stage at an event we had with him in Tokyo and said, of course, in Japanese, which was translated back to him, none of us here in this room would have the slightest idea about 2012 if it wasn't for that guy sitting over there. And I pointed at him.
Oh, yeah.
I said, he's the head honcho here.
Yeah.
He has done so much to make people aware of Mayan fractal time mechanics and galactic movements. And I salute him. And the last time he hugged me, which was after a specialized talk he gave to a small group in Tokyo about the noosphere, which is, of course, the idea that originated with Verdansky and also Desjardins, that we were accelerating towards a point of consciousness that is called the noosphere, where we would all be connected. Our consciousness would all be linked, and we would move into a universal stage of awareness. So, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Jose. He died at the age of 72, and for me that was significant because it brings us to the number 9. 7 plus 9, right?
Yeah.
And, of course, the fractal time pyramid model that Kalaman has been working with in Sweden particularly is significant. So I'll just talk a little bit about that.
Yes.
I've been to Chichen Itza in the Yucatan, which is a 9-step pyramid. It's a calendar in time. Many people will know that on the equinoxes, the sun hits the steps of the pyramid, and it looks like shadow and light play of a cosmic serpent coming down to Earth, a taken part in that several times. It's a 9-step pyramid. I've been at the 9-step pyramid, the Temple of the Jaguar in Tikal, in Guatemala, and also the Pyramid of the Inscriptions in Palenque, where is interred the body of the great king Pakal Votan. So why are they 9-step pyramids? The 9-step pyramids because the Mayans had an incredibly sophisticated understanding of time-space as a fractal compression system that leads to a singularity. And if you imagine a 9-step pyramid, and I lectured on this in 2005 to about, 1,000 people, and I was on stage, and I was asking them, you imagine a 9-step pyramid, and as you go up this pyramid, the evolution of consciousness itself speeds up. So at the very base step of the pyramid, you've got the creation of the universe, the creation of primal star matter, and as you move up the pyramid, you get single-celled life, you get multiple-celled life, you get life in the ocean, you get mammals. Finally, way up the pyramid, you get us. But when you get to the 9th step of the pyramid, which started this year, according to Kalaman on March the 9th, everything goes 20 times faster, Lance. 20 times faster. So the movement of time itself and the movement of information expansion and, hopefully, the evolution of consciousness goes into super hyperdrive, which is what we're seeing now. So for people who are complete naysayers about this, you ask, what is the possibility that the ancient Mayans just happened to throw out this idea that you would have fractal compression, speeding up, acceleration that would end in some kind of a singularity, either in 2012 or 2011, depending on who's correct here.
Right.
Because the Kalaman group believe it's October 28th this year, and most researchers think, of course, it's December the 21st, 2012. But it's so close, and it's so clear that we're in that mode now. Look at what's happened since this year began in North Africa alone, a wave of transformation, and then almost simultaneous with that, a wave of tectonic activity too is happening, right? And here you're also having, as you described, the incredible conspiracy theories of HARP having been used against Japan, of all kinds of amazing stories out there on the net. But I would prefer to look at the big picture of what the Mayans were showing us in terms of an acceleration of the transformation of human consciousness and the byproducts of that, or concomitant with all of that. You are having tectonic activity, weather changes, and everything else, because in a fractal system, everything is connected to everything else. So if that is the case, whether or not there was foul play involved, I think is a moot point. Because what is happening is so enormous, it's so beyond the human monkey's ability to comprehend here, that should not be spending our time and our consciousness worrying about who done it and why they done it. Because the very definition of a conspiracy theory is you can never prove it. And we could stand here for the next 10 years debating if or if not, by which time we will all already have been through the event horizon. And my personal view here, Lance, is, and I have used conspiracy theory over the years as a vehicle to awaken people. And my favorite conspiracy theorist of all time was Robert Anton Wilson. And Robert Anton Wilson used conspiracy theory simply as a method of, he called it, he was an ontological guerrilla to change people's view of existence itself. He used it as satire. And he knew more conspiracy theories than anybody else on the planet. And he said, forget the idea that there's one group managing the planet. I mean, they can barely manage their own stuff. There are hundreds of competing groups. Look at power over this planet. And to naively believe it's one group, the Illuminati or the New World Order or the Rockefellers or the Rothschild, is giving them far more credit than they're worth.
That's right.
Because, you know, a really powerful individual on this